Hey guys, Fallen Messiah here and welcome to another Diablo 4 build guide by yours truly. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If not, then welcome back. And today we are in the Season 10 PTR of Diablo 4 trying out brand new things. And this season might just be the best one yet because we have something very special, Chaos Uniques. These are essentially uniques that can be put in item slots that they would otherwise be not available for. So for example, Banished Lord Talisman boots, as opposed to just an amulet. As you might expect, this opens up so many different possibilities for different builds, and it's essentially theory crafter's dream. And for someone like me who makes build guides, who loves theory crafting and tinkering with the game, this is just godsend. So I love that, and from everything that we've seen so far, Season 10 seems to be poised to be perhaps even the best season of the game just yet. Although maybe it's still too early for that, we'll see. But anyway, in this video, we'll be taking a look at a brand new companion druid. This season, instead of powers, has perks. Perks are essentially very powerful passives that can completely change the way that you play the game. And we have a brand new passive that essentially turns our companion skills into core skills, allowing them even more multipliers than they already have. And in this build, we're taking full advantage of that. Now, Companion Druid is definitely not a weak build even in the current season. In the live version of the game, it's perfectly capable of clearing Pit 100 with the right gear, but now we're supercharging it and it's actually even crazier than it is right now. You cannot see everything from the gameplay and the build, just how crazy this build gets. It's really powerful and really fun to play. Cleared Pit 95 very easily with suboptimal gear and only Paragon 200. I intentionally limited my Paragon level so I could simulate your average player experience that you can expect going into the Season 10. Now, of course, a bit of disclaimer, as this is a PTR, some things are bound to change from the live version, but from my experience, most things that do change tend to be numerical in nature. So just a couple of tweaks here and there, maybe nerfing or buffing certain things, but the gameplay itself and the way the build looks, plays, and feels should remain largely the same. So with just a little bit more optimization, this build can easily clear Pit 100. Most people will be able to do that as long as they follow my guide properly. As always, I will take you through everything you need to know: skills, items, Paragon, gameplay, and more. So sit tight, sit comfortable, and we're gonna get straight into the guide itself. But before we do that, these videos take a long time to make. So everything from researching these builds to actually making them, making the video, editing, all this takes a lot of time. So I would really appreciate it if you would drop a like to the video and sub to the channel if you haven't already, because it really helps me out tremendously. It also tells me that you like this kind of content and it motivates me to do more of it. I already have several other guides lined up during this PTR. I will be testing all kinds of things. This is going to be just one of many guides dropping during the PTR, so stay tuned for more. But anyway, let's get straight to it. So just a quick overview of the build. This build, just like the live version of the Companion build, is also relying on Storm's Companion and on our wolves basically do all of the damage for us. The gameplay is very simple. We're using Grizzly Rage. We're gonna pop into Grizzly Rage and we're basically just spamming our wolves. We have ridiculous amount of ranks into the wolves, which means they basically have zero cooldown. But I will explain more details in the actual gameplay portion of this build. Let's talk about skills first. So we're starting off with Claw and Enhanced Claw. This is mostly just so we can progress further, but also Claw turns into Maul when we are in our werewolf form. You can use a combination of Claw and Polarize to gain quick shift stacks, although there is another way to gain them as well, which I will talk about in the gameplay portion of this video, so it's not actually necessary. We're gonna put 1 point into Polarize, we're gonna put 1 point into Enhanced and Primal. We are rarely using Polarize. 9 times out of 10, we are just spamming wolves and spamming Maul. However, it does have its purpose. Primal Polarize is a pretty nice debuff, and also Polarize is used in conjunction with one seasonal mechanic, which we're gonna talk about a little bit later. We're gonna put 1 point into Heart of the Wild and 3 points into Wild Impulses. One thing to note is that our Savagery Chaos Perk turns our companion skills into core skills. In other words, they also gain a core tag. This means that we are actually going to put 3 points into Wild Impulses because now our wolves are also a core skill, so they gain full benefit of this extra damage. We're gonna put 3 points into Iron Fur for more damage reduction. 1 point into Cyclone Armor. Cyclone Armor turns into Debilitating Roar when we're in our Warbear form, so we're gonna gain that effect passively all the time. Plus, it's just a nice extra bonus for our resistances. It makes it a little bit more tanky. I like to call it a 1 point wonder. We just select it and we forget about it. 1 point into Debilitating Roar, Enhanced and Innate. This is a great skill because not only does it provide us with a ton of damage, it also provides us with more damage reduction. It does that because we also have 3 points into Vigilance, 1 point into Ancestral Fortitude to progress further, and also 3 points into Backlash. So a combination of the effects of Roar plus passives provides us with a pretty huge boost of damage whenever we use it. However, it does have a lengthy cooldown, so you kind of want to try and play around it to make sure you're only roaring when you have an elite pack or when you're facing a boss. We're going to put 5 points into Wolves. This is our main and only damage dealer. As you can see, we have 34 ranks here, which means that we have so many ranks in the skill that it actually has 0 cooldown. This means that we only limited by our spirit cost, so we can spam wolves pretty much all the time. This is a pretty spirit hungry build, so I will talk about a little bit more about the ways that we have to gain spirit back, but basically the core gameplay is just us spamming wolves as much as we can. We're gonna go with Enhanced and Brutal for more damage, 3 points into Nature's Reach, 3 points into Feral Attitude, and 3 points into Call of the Wild, which is by far our biggest damage multi in the skill tree, and we want to make sure we have as much points here in this passive as possible. We're going to put 1 point into Ravens, Enhanced and Brutal. This is not mandatory, but it's a nice little bonus because our key passive gives us all of our companions all the time, so it's just a nice little passive damage bonus that we don't really have to do anything to get. It's especially great for speed farming, but if you want to pit push, you can take this off and put these points into something else. 1 point into Trample. This is not super useful, but it's a nice extra mobility skill. This build kind of struggles with speed, and I'm gonna explain why in the item portion, but basically Trample is kind of like a nice little extra bonus that we can hit every once in a while to gain a little bit extra movement speed. We're gonna put 3 points into Mending for more life, 1 point into Neurotoxin just so that we can put 3 points into Envenom and Toxic Claws. Both of these are amazing for our build, huge sources of damage multiplication. 3 points Defiance, 3 points Natural Disaster, 3 points Quick Shift, another huge source of damage multiplication. We're gonna also put 1 point into Heightened Senses for extra damage reduction, 5 points into Grizzly Rage, Prime and Supreme. Grizzly Rage is an amazing ultimate, and it continues to be amazing even with Season 10 nerfs. It just allows us so much utility, permanent, unstoppable, huge damage reduction. It's really great for us. And now, in Season 10, they finally removed this awkward mechanic where the cooldown only started once the skill expired. So now it's actually a lot better. However, one quirk that this skill has in the PTR, which hopefully is not going to be in the live version, is that when you press Grizzly Rage, when you're in the Grizzly form, the game removes the skill from your bar and you no longer see the duration in Grizzly Rage, which is another really weird quirk. They removed one quirk and introduced another, so hopefully that gets fixed as well. And our key passive, One with Nature, other huge source of damage multiplication. We also gain more companion skills, we gain the passive effects of Ravens, Wolves, and Poison all of the time, so that's pretty nice for us. Alright guys, let's talk about items now. This build uses 2 mythics, which I think is fairly reasonable. I'm not going to bother with replacements for the mythics just now, it's only PTR. In the live version, I will have a non-mythic version ready for use as well. But right now, on the Helm slot, we're going with Air of Perdition. This is just best in slot, 60% damage multiplier at all times, no questions asked. This is just a no-brainer. Not only that, but because our summons are also core skilled now, we actually want to triple masterwork plus the core skills. It's going to be another huge source of damage on this item. And also, critical strike chance is an amazing stat to have on our Helm slot. So overall, this item is just amazing. For the chest, we're going with Shroud of False Death. This is just a best item in the game. I already talked about this ad nauseum, but basically, +1 to all passives is just crazy. I also have an entire video where I dissect this item in great detail. If you've ever been wondering why this item is so good and why everyone uses it, feel free to watch that video where I explain that in great detail. We want to make sure we triple masterwork all stats, but if one crit lands on max life, that's fine. Just try not to crit anything else because the other two affixes are pretty useless. For the gloves, we're going with willpower, crit strike damage, and plus to core skills. Ideally, you want to triple masterwork core skills. As you can see, I didn't, so this is kind of suboptimal. This is a mistemper. But even with that, I still cleared Pit 95, so it's not that much of an issue. But the ideal version is always in the planner. For our tempers, we're going with Wolves attack speed and crit strike damage. And for our aspect, we're going with Stampede, because we gain one additional companion and it also multiplies our companion damage. For the pants, we're going with Storm's companion. Unfortunately, this item doesn't have a chaos version for some reason, so we're gonna just use the standard ancestral unique version. You want to make sure to triple masterwork wolves if you can. This is going to allow us to have permanent uptime on wolves, 0 cooldown. We have ridiculous amounts of ranks on them. As you can see, we have 34 ranks, and I will have even more if I masterworked the core skills on the gloves. So you can definitely get this up a couple of extra ranks further. It also provides additional attack speed for our wolves, but most importantly, it gives our wolves AoE, and it slaps the storm tag on our wolves, which allows our companion wolves to benefit from additional multipliers and essentially turns them into a nature magic spell, which is really important. Now for the boots, we're going with Chaos Hunter's Zenith. This is a unique ring, but we are going to use it in the boot slot because it has some pretty amazing affixes and it's gonna boost our damage pretty significantly, which ordinarily wouldn't be possible on this item slot. So let's take a quick look at what this actually does for us. First of all, we gain quick shift stacks, which is one of the best passives the druids have. It multiplies our damage tremendously. We want to make sure we triple masterwork this if we can. Not only that, but it also says that every 30 seconds we spend in an animal form, our next core skill is guaranteed to overpower, and our wolves are also a core skill. Now this is not going to happen too often, but we are using our maul all the time, which is a shapeshifting skill. So once every 10 seconds, our wolves overpower because of this item. So this is a nice little bonus. But we're mainly using this because of the ranks to quick shift, which is just an amazing thing to have on this item slot. For our weapon, we're going with Ancestral Polearm. Any weapon with 0.9 attacks will do, but Polearm is the best because of the vulnerable damage implicit. We want to have willpower, max life, and crit strike damage. And for our tempers, we're going with Chance for Wolves to deal double damage, and Grizzly Rage Duration. This is a brick. The other temper is a brick. The build still works regardless, however, you definitely want duration instead of this Werebear Overpower or whatever the hell that I have here. And you also want the triple masterwork Chance for Wolves to deal double damage because this is just a straight up damage multiplier. And I got it up to 90%, but we can do definitely more. So as you can see, there are so many ways that we can already optimize this even further. And even without optimizations, even with only Paragon 200, this build easily clears Pit 95 plus. So just to show you, there's a very high ceiling that this build is expected to hit in Season 10. For the aspect, we're going with Shepherd. This gives us 26% extra damage per companion. We're gonna have a ton of companions, so this is a huge source of damage multiplication for us. Now for the amulet, ideally the best amulet is going to have 3 passives: All of the Wild, Envenom, and Quick Shift. Although realistically there's very low chance of you ever getting that kind of amulet in the live game because it's really hard and these items are extremely expensive. So if you get something like this, percentage willpower, Envenom, Call of the Wild, that's a perfectly acceptable replacement. But the best version is always going to be in the planner. We also want to make sure we triple crit Call of the Wild. As you can see, I only double critted here, but this is just another room for the build to be even more optimized. For tempers, we're going with Grizzly Rage cooldown reduction and Storm critical strike chance. Because our wolves are also a storm skill, thanks to our pants, we benefit from this directly. For the aspect, we're going with Rabbit Bear. Rabbit Bear allows us to have poison damage when we're in the Werebear form, and is another source of damage multiplication. For our first ring, we're going with Willpower, Max Life, and Crit Strike damage. And our tempers are gonna be Grizzly Rage cooldown reduction and Crit Strike damage. If it lands on vulnerable damage, that's fine as well. By the way, I forgot to mention, but the effect that our pants have on the wolves allows them to apply vulnerable all of the time, so we have that sorted too. For the aspect, we're going with Moonrage. Not only do we get a chance on kills to spawn another wolf, but also it gives us another +3 to wolves, so the ranks on our wolf skill get even crazier with this aspect. And for Masterworking, we want to make sure we triple crit willpower if we can. For ring number 2, we're also going with willpower, max life, and crit strike damage. If you're struggling defensively, you can replace life with armor or all res, depending on your needs. And for tempers, we're going with lucky hit chance to restore resource, because this is a very resource heavy build. This is going to allow us to get this resource back very quickly, because we have lots of companions, lots of wolves attacking all the time, and every time they attack, they have a chance to return this resource back. And for the second temper, we're going with Storm Crit Strike Chance to make sure that our wolves have 100% Crit Strike Chance at all times. And for the aspect, we're going with Rampaging Werbeast that basically increases the duration of our Grizzly Rage and also gives us more damage multiplication as well. You want to make sure to triple crit willpower on Masterworking as well. Let's talk about rune words and seasonal mechanics now. So for the first rune word, we're going with Nagu Tse. This is going to spawn these little spirit wolves, and they also count as companions. So we actually get a lot more damage from Shepherd's aspect by having these spirit wolves around. Thanks to the Nagu rune, they will just going to be spawning automatically because we always have more than 6 summons. Second rune word is going to be Igni Cry. We're using Cry to pull up the mobs together so that we can do more damage to them, because AoE from Storm's Companion is very small. So by grouping the monsters together, we're increasing our damage output significantly. For the pants, we're going with Willpower Gems. For weapon, we're going with Crit Strike Damage or Emeralds. And then in the jewelry slot, you're gonna use this to fill out any extra resistances and armor that you're missing. Now, even though what you see here, I have 180 armor, if I apply all these incenses and elixirs, I'm at 664. However, we also gain a ton of extra armor when we morph to Grizzly Rage. So once I do that, you can see that I'm actually well above the armor cap. So just something to consider. Make sure you always use your incenses and your consumables as well. Let's jump into the Chaos perks. We're going with Savagery. This is what really enables our entire build to shine. Our companion skills are altered to also be core skills. This allows us to gain tons of extra ranks on them, allows us to completely reduce the cooldown to 0, and also gives us even more damage. So just overall an amazing perk that really allows this build to shine in Season 10. We're also going with Power Siphon. Our core skills deal up to 100% increased damage, but they also reduce our maximum current resource. This is part of the reason why we're so hungry for resource for spirit in this build. However, this is an extremely powerful multiplier. We're also going with Alternating Alterations. Casting a core skill empowers our next core skill. We have 2 main core skills. We have Pulverize and Wolves. This is basically the main reason we're using Pulverize for. Once you cast Pulverize, our next cast of Wolves is empowered. Although, to be honest, you can replace this because it's really hard to spam Pulverize and Wolves at the same time. So you can definitely replace this with something else if you choose. This is not nearly as impactful as it might seem at first. And finally, we're going with Invigorating Attacks, because this build is so hungry for spirit and resource. This is going to help get our spirit back very quickly. Every 5 seconds, our cast of Maul are going to fully replenish our resource. This is just really, really good for us. Now for the spirit boons, we're going with Waviness first. Then we're going to take Sight Talent and Avian Wrath for more crit strike chance and crit strike damage. Now for the wolf spirit, usually we would go with Pack Leader. However, because we have so many ranks on wolves, we already have 0 cooldown, so we don't actually need this. Instead, we're gonna go with Energize. Dealing damage has a chance to restore our spirit fully. This is amazing for this build because it's so hungry for spirit. We're casting wolves all the time, so this is going to help us mitigate that cost tremendously. Alternatively, you can also go for Calamity. That's going to increase the duration of your Grizzly Rage, but as long as you're getting kills consistently, you will find that we never actually run out of Grizzly Rage, so that's not really needed. And for the last row, I went with Masochistic. Whenever we crit with our shapeshifting skills, we get some life back. This is really good because it's going to help to keep us alive in higher tiers of the pit. But if you wish to reduce the cooldown of Grizzly Rage even further, you can also go for Calm Before the Storm as well. So Boons are actually fairly flexible. The only one that I feel are really necessary is our Avian Wrath and Sight Talents. Anything else, feel free to mix and match however you feel is appropriate to you. Alright guys, let's talk about Paragon now. Now as you can see, I only have 207 Paragon levels. I intentionally didn't want to get 300 because most people are never going to reach that in a season, and also it's completely unnecessary as well. This build becomes online when you have around 180 to 190 points, and anything else is just an extra bonus. So I'm not going to go over every single node, just legendary nodes and the glyphs. So we're starting out with Spirit. This is a huge multiplier on our crit strike damage. Then board number 2 is going to be Untamed. And whenever we cast a companion skill, we gain 20% extra damage, stacking up to 4 times. So we're going to be spamming wolves all the time, so we should always have an uptime on Untamed on this build. And also, this is going to be in the planner as well, but we always try to grab all of these maximum life and always nodes because they are really helpful. Glyph number 2 is going to be Wild. Wild is a great glyph because not only does it also multiply our crit strike damage further, but it multiplies our passive portion of our companion skills, and also if you have any extra points to spare, you can select all the intelligence nodes here nearby because that's going to further increase our companion damage with this as well. Board number 3 is Thunderstruck. Because our pants tag our wolves as Storm, we benefit from this huge multiplier. Now, don't worry about this bonus because as long as you follow the way that I laid out the nodes, this Paragon board actually procs this bonus by itself. By picking, for example, these rare nodes, these magic nodes, and we're also gonna put in Keeper. Keeper grants an additional bonus to all rare nodes within range. We're also going to select Concentrated, so all these things give a bonus to Thunderstruck and allow us to make sure we always have 60% multiplier at all times. Board number 4 is going to be Survival Instincts, and glyph number 4 is going to be Earth and Sky. And the final board is Heightened Malice, and final glyph is Headhunter. And now we're in the final portion of this build, which is the gameplay portion. Now the gameplay is really not that complicated. Now first of all, you want to make sure that we pop in Grizzly Rage because it's going to provide us tons of damage and damage reduction. So it's kind of a necessity to make sure that this build is really fluid. So we pop in Grizzly Rage. As you can see, we have an armor cap. Our resistances are also almost capped, so we're really good. And then we walk to our target and we basically are just gonna spam Maul. Maul and Wolves on our target, and that's it. You can immediately see how resource hungry this build is. So you basically just want to make sure we're always mauling. This provides us with several benefits. It also gives us our resource back, allows us to spam wolves to the target. Then we also cast Debilitating Roar whenever it's off cooldown, especially if you're approaching a pack or a boss. It's going to provide us even more damage reduction and even more damage multiplication. And there's of course Trample that we can use for mobility. As you can see, when we are in the Werebear form, our Claw turns into Maul, and our Cyclone Armor turns into Debilitating Roar. Like so. So, you always want to make sure that you're always in Grizzly Rage form because then we have the biggest amounts of damage and damage reduction. Now, the only other thing to note are the quick shift stacks. There are 2 main ways to get them. You can, for example, just use Claw with Pulverize a couple of times before transformation. And there you have 6 stacks. We pop Grizzly Rage, and now we have maximum amounts of damage. But there also is a different way. We can actually gain quick shift stacks during Grizzly Rage form with one simple trick. This is especially useful if you're in the higher levels of the pit and you kind of just want to pop Grizzly Rage immediately because we're kind of vulnerable without the Grizzly Rage form. So how are we gonna do it? Well, you're gonna laugh, but observe. First, we pop into Grizzly Rage. You press your emote wheel. Hello. And then you press a shapeshifting skill. So all you want to do is, once you pop Grizzly Rage, you emote anything on your emote wheel, and then you use a shapeshifting skill. And every single skill we have is a shapeshifting one other than your wolves. And look, 6 stacks in Grizzly Rage form. This is really silly, but this works. And the reason why this works is because when you select your emote, you briefly turn into a human form. So even though we're still in Grizzly Rage, by abusing this mechanic, we can actually quickly gain quick shift stacks without ever leaving Grizzly Rage. And this works in live version of the game as well. This is a trick that I've been using in the Polarized Druid currently in the game right now, and this is something that you can also use in any other Druid that uses Grizzly Rage. Very simple and effective way of getting quick shift stacks without ever leaving Grizzly Rage form. Not only that, it's actually hilarious because you're kind of passive aggressively saying hello to the monsters that you're gonna smash a couple of seconds later. It's a riot. And that's basically it as far as gameplay is concerned. It's really not that complicated. I'm also going to quickly show you my 95 pit clear just to kind of demonstrate how this build works in action. Alright guys, and just to quickly showcase pit 95 clear, as you can see, I am already using this trick where I'm helloing monsters and getting quick shift stacks while in Grizzly Rage form. So I'm never actually leaving the Grizzly Rage form because it just provides me with so much damage reduction and just damage overall that it's definitely worth it for me to take 30 seconds of my time and do this. And then I have this damage buff for the rest of the pit. So you can see I already have 4 stacks. Unfortunately, the buff often gets buried in the buff counter, and the buff counter is kind of a topic in itself. It's definitely not the best. So as you can see, this build is so good, super fun, explosive. My wolves are absolutely demolishing the content. I already have 6 stacks of quick shift without ever leaving Grizzly Rage once again. And my wolves applying vulnerable, just applying huge amounts of AoE. Meanwhile, I'm just mauling, keeping my spirit up, spamming wolves, spamming roar whenever it's off cooldown. And sometimes I'm using polarize for debuff and to proc the chaos perk, but most of the time it's not even necessary. So as you can see, this 95 clear is very comfortable. I'm never really in much danger. My wolves are absolutely smashing all these monsters to bits, and it's really that simple. Just make sure you always have life up by using maul on monsters. Make sure you always have Grizzly Rage up, make sure you're casting Roar when it's off cooldown, and make sure that you're spamming wolves manually on your enemies, and wolves are gonna do the rest. Pretty simple, but extremely powerful build, and of course it absolutely smashes Torment 4 content, so don't even worry about that. And also just to fast forward a little bit on the boss kill as well, this build is an amazing boss killer, so many single target damage, it's amazing. So it's gonna die any second now, and here it goes. So just a super great, amazing, fun build to play, and that's basically the gist of the entire gameplay. And there you have it guys, that has been my complete guide for brand new companion druid in season 10. Of course, once again, just to put a disclaimer, this is after all only a PTR, however I believe that most things will remain the same in the live version, and most things here are going to be changed only numerically if they end up being changed at all. This is a very powerful, explosive build, amazing for everyone who loves playing around minions, summons, etc. It's very powerful. Once again, I cleared 95 with very little effort, very little optimization, and only Paragon 200. So this can be pushed easily into pit tiers 100, 105, 110, etc. Of course, once again, there is going to be a planner down below in the comments and in the video description, so you can reference that if you feel stuck. And also, just a side note, I do update these planners all the time. So if you find something new in the planner that's not maybe in the video, this just means that I optimized and updated it even further. But anyway, that's gonna be it for me, guys. As I already said, this is just one of many build guides that I'm planning to drop during this PTR, so stay tuned for more. And once again, if you appreciate these efforts and this kind of content, drop a like, drop a sub, I really appreciate it. Thank you for watching, I'm Fallen Messiah, and I'll see you in the next one.